The windshield wipers screamed against the glass, but they couldn't keep up with the rain. Sarah's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, her headlights carving 2 trembling tunnels through the black. The radio had gone static 10 miles back, and the last sign she'd seen, "Welcome to Willow Creek, Pop. 1842, felt like a lie. The storm had swallowed the town whole. Lightning flashed. For one heartbeat she saw the road, the ditch, the pine trees bending like mourners. Then darkness again. The car hydroplaned. She jerked the wheel, felt the tires bite nothing, and the world tilted. Metal shrieked. A branch punched through the passenger window, showering her with glass and needles. The engine died with a cough. Silence, except for the rain drumming the roof like fists. Sarah sat frozen, tasting blood where she'd bitten her tongue. Her phone was a dead rectangle in the cup holder. She was 32, alone, and the only light left was the faint glow of her hazard blinkers. A knock on the window made her scream. A man stood outside, soaked to the bone, one hand shielding a little girl against his chest. The child's pink raincoat had lost its shine, water streamed from the hem. The man's mouth moved, Sarah couldn't hear over the storm, but his eyes were wide, pleading. She cracked the door. Wind slapped her face. "Please," he shouted. My truck spun out half a mile back. "She's freezing. Just until it lets up." Sarah looked at the girl, 6, maybe 7. Shivering so hard her teeth chattered like dice. Something in Sarah's chest cracked open. She'd grown up in foster homes where doors stayed locked against strangers. Tonight, the rule felt small. "Get in," she said. They tumbled into the back seat, dripping, smelling of wet wool and pine. The man tried to apologize, the girl just burrowed into his side. Sarah cranked the heat, though the engine wouldn't turn over. The windows fogged instantly. "I'm Eli," the man said. His voice was low, frayed at the edges. "This is Mia." "Sarah." She met his eyes in the rearview mirror. They were the color of storm clouds before they break. "There's a motel 2 exits up. If we can get the car started." Lightning again. The branch in the passenger seat sparked where it touched a loose wire. Sarah smelled smoke. "Out," she ordered. "Now." They spilled into the rain. The car hissed behind them, a dying animal. Sarah's house was 4 miles back, she'd passed it on the way in, a narrow gravel drive, a single porch light. She hadn't planned to stop, she was only cutting through Willow Creek to reach her sister in Portland. But the porch light glowed like a promise. She took Mia's hand. The child's fingers were ice. "We walk," Sarah said. "Stay close." The road was a river. Eli carried Mia when she stumbled. Sarah's boots filled with water, every step sounded like regret. Wind tore at their clothes. Halfway there, Mia began to cry. Not loud, just a steady leak of sound that broke Sarah's heart clean in two. Eli's voice cut through the gale. "Hey, Munchkin. Remember the lighthouse game?" Mia hiccuped. "The one where we count the beams?" "Exactly. Every flash, we count. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi." Lightning strobed. 1 Mississippi, Mia whispered. Sarah found herself counting 2. The game stitched minutes into something bearable. By the time her porch light appeared, they were a soggy, shivering choir. She fumbled the key. The door stuck, warped from last winter's flood. Eli threw his shoulder against it. Wood groaned, gave way. They fell inside, a tangle of limbs and relief. The house smelled of cedar and old books. Sarah's grandmother had left it to her with a single instruction: keep the hearth warm for travelers. Sarah had laughed at the time. Tonight, the words felt prophetic. She flicked the switch. Nothing. Power was out. But the fireplace was laid with kindling, her grandmother's habit. Sarah's hands shook as she struck a match. Flame caught, leapt, painted the room gold. Eli lowered Mia to the rug. The girl's lips were blue. Sarah peeled off the sodden coat, wrapped her in a quilt that smelled of lavender and mothballs. Eli stripped to his t-shirt, muscles corded with cold. He looked around, bookshelves to the ceiling, a battered piano, photos of people Sarah never spoke of. "I can pay for the trouble," he started. "Stop." Sarah's voice was sharper than she meant. "Just sit." She disappeared into the kitchen, returned with 3 mugs of cocoa made from the emergency stash, powdered milk, real chocolate, a pinch of chili like her grandmother taught her. Mia sipped, eyes enormous above the rim. Color returned to her cheeks. Eli's gaze kept drifting to the window, where rain lashed the glass like it had a grudge. "I need to call someone. My phone's toast." Sarah handed him the landline. "Generator kicks in for the fridge and the well pump. Phone's old but it works." He dialed, spoke in murmurs. Sarah caught fragments: truck in a ditch, insurance, a babysitter who'd never forgive him. When he hung up, his shoulders sagged. "Tow truck can't come till morning. Roads are closed." Mia was already half asleep, quilt pulled to her chin. Sarah lifted her, carried her to the guest room, really her grandmother's sewing room, but the daybed was made up. She tucked the child in, left the door cracked so firelight spilled across the hall. Back in the living room, Eli stood by the hearth, hands outstretched. Steam rose from his clothes. "She hasn't slept through the night since her mom left," he said quietly. "Nightmares. I thought the storm would finish us." Sarah poked the fire. Sparks flew up the chimney. "How long ago?" 8 months. "Cancer. Fast." His voice cracked on the last word. He cleared his throat. "I'm sorry. You don't need my baggage." Sarah surprised herself by laughing, soft, rusty. "My baggage has its own luggage." They talked. Not the polished kind of talk, but the raw, after-midnight kind. Eli told her about coding in coffee shops while Mia colored beside him, about algorithms that ranked websites and the quiet terror of being the only parent left. Sarah told him about growing up in strangers' houses, about inheriting this one and not knowing what to do with roots. At some point, she brought out the whiskey, another emergency stash. 1 shot each. The burn felt like forgiveness. Eli turned the bottle in his hands. "I optimize things for a living. Search engine optimization. Make websites climb Google like ivy. But I can't optimize grief. Can't A/B test a bedtime story that doesn't end in tears." Sarah studied his profile in the firelight. Strong jaw, worry lines starting early. Maybe some things aren't meant to rank. He looked at her then, really looked. Something shifted in the air, warm and dangerous. Outside, the storm began to tire. Rain softened to a whisper. The power flickered once, twice, then blazed on. Bulbs hummed. The refrigerator kicked in with a grumpy cough. Mia appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Daddy, the lights are back." Eli opened his arms. She ran to him, buried her face in his neck. Sarah felt like an intruder on something sacred. Morning came gray and dripping. The tow truck driver was a woman named Carla who chewed cinnamon gum and called everyone "hon." She winched Eli's truck from the ditch while Mia watched, fascinated. Sarah stood on the porch in her grandmother's old robe, coffee steaming in her hands. Eli approached, Mia skipping beside him. "We owe you more than we can repay." Sarah crouched to Mia's level. "You keep that quilt. It's lucky." Mia hugged her hard, smelling of sleep and cocoa. When she let go, her eyes were solemn. "Will you come to my birthday?" It's in 2 weeks. I'm turning 7. Sarah's throat closed. Eli saved her. We'll send an invitation. No pressure. They exchanged numbers. The truck rumbled to life. Mia waved until the curve in the road swallowed them. Sarah stood on the porch a long time. The house felt too big, the silence too loud. She went inside, opened her laptop for the first time in days. The screen glowed with unread emails, job offers she'd been ignoring, a life in Portland waiting to resume. She closed the lid. 2 weeks later, an envelope arrived. Thick cream paper, Mia's careful crayon drawing of a lighthouse on the front. Inside, an invitation to a birthday party at a roller rink, and a post-it note in Eli's handwriting. We'd love to see you. No algorithms required. Sarah laughed until she cried. She drove to the party in a borrowed dress, hair twisted up with a pencil. The rink smelled of popcorn and rental skates. Balloons bobbed against the ceiling. Mia spotted her across the room and shrieked, barreling over in light-up sneakers. Eli stood by the cake, looking unfairly good in a button-down rolled to the elbows. When their eyes met, the noise faded to a hum. You came, he said. I was promised terrible pizza. They skated. Sarah hadn't been on wheels since high school, her ankles wobbled like a newborn foal. Eli caught her when she nearly face-planted into a cluster of 7-year-olds. His hand lingered at her waist. Later, under the disco ball, Mia tugged them both to the center. Group skate, she declared. The DJ played something slow and cheesy. Sarah found herself in Eli's arms, Mia's small hand in hers, the three of them moving in a clumsy circle. After cake, Eli pulled Sarah aside. The emergency exit glowed red behind him. I have a confession, he said. That night, when I used your phone, I looked you up. Not creepy, I swear. Just, your name rang a bell. Sarah's stomach dropped. What do you mean? You wrote a blog years ago. Roots and Routes. About foster care, small towns, finding home. It ranked on page 1 for Healing After Childhood Trauma for, like, ever. I used to read it when Mia's mom was sick. Your words kept me sane. Sarah stared. She'd abandoned the blog after her grandmother died, too raw, too public. I didn't connect the dots until I saw the byline photo, Eli continued. Then the storm hit, and there you were. Real. Sheltering us. She laughed, shaky. So the SEO guy was optimized into my life by fate? By a Category 3 storm and a pink raincoat. They kissed then, quick and sweet, tasting of buttercream and possibility. Mia cheered from the sidelines. The months that followed were not a montage. There were challenges, nightmares that sent Mia running to Sarah's bed, Eli's freelance gigs drying up when algorithms shifted, Sarah's fear that love was just another temporary placement. But they built something sturdier than code. Eli taught Sarah how to update her blog with modern SEO, ethical, human-centered. Traffic soared. Brands reached out. She hired a part-time editor, turned the guest room into an office. Mia learned to code simple games on a tablet, her tongue poking out in concentration. 1 year after the storm, Sarah stood on the same porch. The sky was clear, stars sharp as pins. Eli came up behind her, arms around her waist. Remember when you thought you were just cutting through town? He murmured. I still am, she said. Just taking the scenic route. Inside, Mia practiced piano, chopsticks, over and over, improving by the day. The hearth was warm. The quilt lay across the couch, faded but cherished. Sarah had learned that home wasn't a place you ranked, it was a story you kept writing, one storm, one cocoa, one terrible pizza at a time. If this story moved you, hit that like button, it's the digital equivalent of passing the quilt. Subscribe for more tales of ordinary miracles. Ring the bell so you never miss the next storm. And remember, sometimes the algorithm of the universe needs a little rain to reroute you exactly where you belong.